Valorant's new map Corrode just dropped. Here's some Cypher setup that you can use in your game. First of all, let's take a look at window mid. Generally, you don't want to be here and you don't really need to place your trip here. But if you do, this is the only place you can do. There's nowhere else you can put a trip on. But generally you don't want to be here. One, because it takes a decent amount of time going mid and then going to a site. And two, you're better off just tripping from the site itself. Like from here. Or from here. Alternatively, you can also go straight here, right, the moment barriers drop, and then just put your trip here. You need to line it up on the line over here, and put your trip right below it. Make sure that the topmost part of the trip doesn't hit the line. Now that we're done with that, let's go with a side. On this side, generally you don't want to set up in the site itself, but rather you want to set up on elbow or the yard. For the reason why, for one, there's really not many places for your setup in the site itself that you can play off to, and two, this side is really penetrable. Every single side of this wall is wall bangable. That means this part is gonna be your favorite part. On that note though, of course you can't really wall bang it with a medium 10 bullets, and you can only use a high penetration. But that shouldn't be a problem because you have wall hacks. You're a Cypher. Enough of that talk. Let's start with the setup. The most common one you would use is probably here.
This goes here.
Just the usual, blocking the entire thing. Or you can do this. It doesn't block here, but it does go here. There's also this,
That goes there.
or
This
this,
should do.
or this.
This is a nice
Really, there's a lot of parts that you can just put your trip on. This
goes here.
This one, though, is my favorite. It stretches so long, and the attacker probably won't notice it because they're either clearing this corner or go here. Although they can just talk here and hear it, so they can just shoot it. But that's just how every trips. Now, with these trips, you can either play from here.
Yes, this should do.
And just use your cage as a cover, or you can go to a link and just use
This goes here.
your cage as a cover again from here. Either way, it works fine. Now, if you want to trip a link, there's really only one way to do it. That is this one.
This is a nice spot.
Or if you want to wait for the barrier to drop, you can put it here.
Yes, this should do.
Or anywhere on this wall, really. But yes, most of the time you probably would want to use all the trips for this fight instead. A tip that I could give is that this rails is really helpful for your setups. Every
This goes here.
single one of them,
This is a nice spot.
you can put your trips on it. So yes, just some variation. Now that the yard is done, let's go to elbow. There's of course the basic this
That goes
strip.
there.
And you can also put it here
Yes, this should do.
or here.
This goes here.
Here's some stuff that I found.
Yes, this should do. That goes there. This goes here. Ah, this is a nice spot. Yes, this should do. That goes there. This goes here.
And you can also just play around with anything on the top part of this map.
Ah, this is a nice spot. That goes there. Yes, this should do.
Just, again, be unpredictable and keep switching things up. Now, generally, you want to play from this side, either picking off your trip
This goes here.
with your cage as a cover, or, as I mentioned before, all these walls is penetrable. So if you have a heavy penetration gun, you can just sit here, wait for the trip, get the kill. Now I do have one way that I use on this game, on this map. You stand just right here and aim on this ledge, just roughly in the middle of it.
This goes here. That goes there. Yes, this should do.
And you want to play it from this
Here.
part. So when the bear drops, you see the enemy,
Cage
pop your
trigger.
cage, get your kills. You can also pair it up with this cage.
Cage
This would
trigger.
cover this side and this side. So you can pretty much just hide, either go back to site or go to mid. Now for camera placement, surprise surprise, of course this window would be the first one. It covers the entire main, that it's just the best. But of course the trade-off is the enemies would see it immediately, so chances are you won't have it up for a long time, but it's good enough for info. You can also put the cam here to cover the mid if you don't have a trap there, which you probably won't. And it also watches this part, which you can set up yourself when the enemy is close to your trap on elbow. This is my second favorite cam after the window, because it also covers main, but it's not really obvious. Well, it is, but chances are you won't notice it immediately, because you would clear like this. And you don't really see that too much. Yeah, that's just some variations that you can play around. Now, if you want to play elbow, but you don't have anyone covering this side, you can put your cam over here and just be ready. Hold your cage, get a kill, check the cam, see if there's anyone close. If not, you can go back here, or you can push back. But if you check your cam and there's enemies close already, you can throw your cage
Cage trigger.
and you can run back to city. Now we're on B side. This side is really horrible for the attacker to push to, because there's just so many angles that you can hold. Let's start with the basic trip, that is using this wall
Ah, this is a nice spot.
to cover this part, and then using
This goes
this
here.
to cover this part. They can of course jump over it, but if you want to hold alert, you shouldn't even be placing side trips. Instead, you should be putting
That goes there.
the choke trip. Now here's some variation for the trips if you want to play either from
Here.
backside or
Here.
heaven.
This goes here. Yes, this should do. That goes there. This goes here. Yes, this should do. That goes there. This goes here. Wow, this is a nice spot. Yes, this should do.
And you can pair it up with
This
this
goes
cage
here.
if you want to play backside. Or
Wow,
this
this
cage
is a nice
if you
spot.
want to play from this side. Additionally, this cage also
triggered.
can make unexpected head glitch. And you can just back away like that. Now, if you want to play from elbow, you can just still use this once, but instead you put your trips anywhere here, or my favorite, over here. And here. You can pair that up with a cage. That way, if your trips get hit,
Cage
you can
triggered.
pop your cage, get your kill, and go back. And you still have one more cage. So if they're pushing you, you can just throw your cage again,
Cage triggered.
get your kill, and go back again. Now if you're playing from Haven, there's really not much you can play your trip off other than
Here.
this ones
Here.
and maybe
Here.
this sides. But you can do some cool cage combo like this one
Cage
if
triggered.
you want to float onto side and be unexpected. Now for the mid, aka B-Link, again the only trip you can do is just the basic one, or you can wait for the barrier to drop and then run straight here and put your trip here, as I said before. Now for one ways, there's really not much you can do, but there's one that I really like. You stand right on this corner, aim here, and just throw your cage.
Cage
It
triggered.
might not seem much because it doesn't really look like a good one way. If anything, it doesn't look like a one way. But if you're playing on Haven and it's not smoked off yet,
Cage triggered.
that's a really good one way
Cage triggered.
because they can't see you at all from here, even up to this choke point. Now, for camera placement, you can't really have a really good camera or anything. There's this camera that somewhat see
Here.
this part,
Here.
but you shouldn't rely too much on it. What I like is there's this one where you aim at this
Here.
corner, just place your cam there. It sees almost most of mains, but it also
Here.
covers mid. So if you don't have this strip, you can still use that cam. They won't be able to see it at all, or barely, but you can see most of their legs. Other than that, there's not many noticeable one. High cam is always a good one. Leaf cam is always a good one to hide. Oh, Oh, and a bonus, the rails on this side also useful for your trips. And additionally, the vines also useful for trips. And yeah, that's all defender side, I guess. Now for attack, there's really not much you can do other than just the basic
That goes
trip.
there.
But
Where are you?
I have a favorite one way
Drop the spike.
for this plant. You stand over here, doesn't really matter too much. And then you aim at
Here.
this and just throw your cage.
I have dropped the spike.
Now that's
Cage trigger.
gonna be a one way for any part, because they
I have
won't be
retrieved
able
the
to see
spike.
anything at all.
Cage trigger.
Maybe a little bit of this. Now on B side, there's really no place for one ways because the plant spot is just this open space. You can try to do this one, but it really
Cage triggered.
is not a one way at all.
Cage triggered.
Now although there's no one way, I do have a trip for heaven. So when they try to jump up, they would get cut. Of course, it's not really foolproof because there's this opening, but if they try to do here, they can't really just shift walk out of in the open, right? So hey, it might work. Really, anything on this part, you can just put your trip. But personally, I like this one the most because it's really hitting the edge. But yeah, I think that's it. Thanks for watching.